Welcome back to Paper Wrigley Field Build Day Part 3. Today I'm going to be building the upper concourses and the ramps that surround the grandstand. And I'm really looking forward to telling the two stories about the two times that I've been to Wrigley Field. I'll start off by admitting I'm not a huge Cubs fan, but the Cubs do have a soft spot in my heart because my mother is a Cubs fan. I'm from Omaha, so I'm more of a Royals fan, and my mother is a Cubs fan because her family is from Chicago. But the first time I visited Wrigley Field, I jumped right on the bandwagon because it was an awesome experience. I was there the night the Cubs clinched the 2003 Central Division title. The fact that we were even there that day was really just a coincidence because I was in high school at the time and we had a 3-day weekend, so my dad must have taken the day off of work or whatever on that Friday. And we went down to Chicago to try and catch a game on the next Saturday. And everything just worked out awesomely. First off, the Friday game, the day before we were going, got rained out. And they just announced they were just going to do a doubleheader the next day. And if you had Saturday tickets, you got to go to both games. So we signed up for one game, ended up getting 2 games. Going into the doubleheader, the Cubs' magic number was 3. And everything just fell right into place. The Cubs won Game 1, magic numbers 2. The Astros lose their game, magic numbers 1. And then the Cubs win the night game of the doubleheader and clinch the Central Division title for the first time in 14 years. I go to a lot of sporting events, and to this day that's still the only time I've ever been in the stadium to see a major championship won by any team. To be quite honest, I don't even remember what the 2003 Cubs did in the playoffs that year. I was just really lucky to be there when they won the Central. The next time I visited Wrigley Field would have been in 2008. If you've heard any of the backstory about how paper stadiums got started, you've probably heard of my friend Nate. He's the one that encouraged me to start a Twitter account to share this little hobby that I have, and then he's the one that told me to start a YouTube account to show people how I'm building these stadiums. Nate and I go way back. We met in the church nursery when we were a few months old, and obviously we're still friends to this day. When we were 18, we planned a long road trip to celebrate graduating high school, and the deal was, let's see how many baseball stadiums we can go to. So, at first it started with trying to get to all 30 baseball stadiums, but we decided to make it a little more realistic and settled on pretty much all the stadiums in the Midwest. We started by going to Minneapolis, went to a game in Milwaukee, went to a game in Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, St. Louis, and Kansas City. When we stopped in Chicago, obviously, that was the second time I visited Wrigley Field. Here we are, 2 young studs. I don't know how we kept the women away, but somehow we managed to. I also want to point out, if you want to go back and look at that picture, I'm 6'1". Nate is a giant. He stands 7 feet tall, and you can't teach that. Now, I don't really have an epic story about the actual game we went to. It was just a midsummer game, I believe against the Orioles, and I don't even know if the Cubs won or not. The story I have about our 2008 visit to Wrigley Field has more to do with our 18-year-old ignorance. See, we got into Chicago and spent our day in the city before going to the game, and one of the things we did is we ate lunch at the top of the John Hancock building, which is, I believe, the 3rd tallest building in Chicago with 100 stories. Obviously, it's a very tall building. As we sat up there at the top of the John Hancock building, eating our lunch, we could see Wrigley Field off into the distance. And one of the things we thought was how, we're going to the game right after this, and let's save a few bucks. We can see it right there. Let's just walk. No big deal. So in our excitement, trying to save a few dollars, not ordering a cab, we convinced ourselves we can make that walk and it'd be nice and short. You see, this is the days before we could just look it up on our phones, and if we could have, we would have seen that it's an hour and a half walk. Now I'm someone that's always prided myself on being in good shape and being healthy, but I will tell you right now, an hour and a half walk in about 95-degree Chicago heat and humidity, it was miserable. And by the time we actually stopped several times to try and cool off, we definitely weren't walking at a normal pace. The walk probably took us almost 2.5 hours, to be honest. But we finally did get there at some point, and we got to enjoy a game at Wrigley Field, which was absolutely something that every baseball fan needs to check off their bucket list at some point. And that's really all I got for stories about visiting Wrigley Field. Like I said, I've only been there twice. I would definitely go back again and again and again, and I can't wait to take my sons there someday. As for the rest of this video, I'm just going to let it run, and you guys can enjoy this royalty-free iMovie music, which is really growing on me personally. Thanks for watching another Paper Stadiums video. My next video, I'm going to be putting the seats into the lower bowl, so make sure to watch out for that. Hit my Paper Stadium's logo right in the middle of your screen to subscribe, and I will catch you on the flippity flip. I definitely just found my new way to sign off. Michael Scott forever.